You're watching BCTV, Branford's Community Access Station.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Around the Town with Henry and Frank. Henry Pond behind the camera, and I'm Frank Twohill. You've gone by this house many, many times, I'm sure. We're right on Main Street, just to the west of Branford Center, in front of the Harrison House. The Harrison House was built in 1724, and it was built by Nathaniel Harrison. It's a beautiful 2-acre property with flower, herb gardens, and there's even a barn in the back. But the house itself and the property is for sale. And for the last 40 years, the Branford Historical Society has been maintaining it, operating it for us as a museum in Branford. The goal right now of the Branford Historical Society is to purchase this property. They've been running it under a lease for the last 40 years. And now the owner, which is in Boston, it's a nonprofit organization, have told the Branford Historical Society that the house is for sale. The town of Branford, the residents, everyone should contribute to the Branford Historical Society to preserve the Harrison House as a treasured Branford museum. Today, our program is very special. We're going to be discussing the effort by the Branford Historical Society to acquire the building. And also, you're going to see a talk by Branford's town historian, Jane Bouley. She's going to present one of her great talks on the history of the Harrison House. You're going to be hearing about how it was first constructed almost 300 years ago. And then it was the home of the Harrisons. And then it became the home of the Lindsley family, and they lived here for about 130 years. And then it was acquired by an architectural historian who bought it and thoroughly restored it. And that was Frederick Kelly that owned it and fixed it up. And it was then given to a group in Boston that now owns it. So the idea is to acquire this property, purchase the Harrison House so that we and future generations can enjoy this as our treasured history museum. So we're going to be hearing the talk by Jane Bouley, our town historian. We're also going to be speaking with Ginny Page, who's the Branford Historical Society president. She's going to be telling us about the efforts that are ongoing concerning raising the money, and it's going to be a great program, so please stay with us as we bring to you the Branford Historical Society's effort to acquire this as a permanent museum owned by the Branford Historical Society. And you're also going to be hearing a great talk by our town historian, Jane Bouley. So stay with us here as Around the Town with Henry and Frank continues. Hello, we're back, and we're in front of the Harrison House, and this is another edition of Around the Town with Henry and Frank. I'm here with the Branford Historical Society president, Ginny Page. Ginny, welcome to Around the Town.
Thank you. Thanks for coming here and talking to us today. It's good to get the word out on our efforts in our campaign, and it's great to share this video that Jane did.
Absolutely. All her talks are really top-notch. And that's coming up very shortly. But first, Ginny, why don't you tell us about the effort that's underway to acquire the Harrison House for the Branford Historical Society? What's going on?
Well, it started back in January. We kicked off our campaign in January and sent letters to our members. We've received funds from all over town. People have become quite interested. We have a matching grant right now with the Branford Community Foundation that was kicked off at our annual dinner in May. $35,000 matching grant, very generous, to individuals in town. If they donate, every dollar they donate is matched by the Branford Community Foundation. We just recently got a donation from the Branford Rotary Club for $10,000.
Wonderful.
Wonderful gift. Yeah. Wonderful gift. Very thoughtful. And I think everybody is beginning, they know the value of this house. It's a treasure. It's a museum, a community resource, and we can't lose it. If you lose a museum like this, if you lose this house, you'll never get it back. So we're fighting hard to keep it and save it.
You're doing a great job here for the Branford Historical Society. Now, Ginny, all kinds of great history is going to be given to us in Jane Bouley's talk about the Harrison House. You're just about to see it, but would you tell us about the efforts that the Branford Historical Society has been doing over the years to keep this operating?
Well, we have been open for tours during the summer months. The winter's a little cold, so we're open every Saturday for tours from 1 to 4, and they're guided tours from knowledgeable people there's a lot of history in this house, a lot of artifacts, and I run into people all the time that say, I've lived in this town all my life, and I've never been in this house. I urge people to come and see it. It's a treasure.
Absolutely. It's called a 2x2 or 2x2 salt box, and it is that beautiful red house that you pass right here on Main Street, built almost 300 years ago by Mr. Harrison.
Yes. And it was the architect, Frederick Kelly, brought the house back to its original form. It was his pet project, personal project, and he brought it back to the best that he could. And upon his death, he donated it to Historic New England, which is a preservation company up in Boston, Massachusetts. And so we've been leasing it for 40 years now.
Wow. And
they offered to have us buy it. And we're doing it, and
That's great.
And it's fabulous. So we're keeping the history alive. We're trying to just keep it moving forward so that generations from now can appreciate this. This is hometown pride right here.
Yeah.
And we have third graders that come in every year, part of their curriculum, their local history, and they're wide-eyed and they love it. It's a good chance for everybody to learn the history of their town.
Absolutely, and it's a very old history too. Right, it goes back to the 1600s.
1644 is when Branford was started, and we're lucky to have a house at 1724. There's not many around, and this is probably the only one of the oldest houses that the public can walk through and see what it looked like back in those days. Yeah.
You can step inside the Harrison house and you can picture yourself back 300 years ago when this house was new, and how things have changed with your, upstairs. I don't think there's many creature comforts, right?
No. It's pretty basic, but yeah. But it's a lovely house, and I urge everybody to come visit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Ginny. And we're just we're going to go now to town historian Jane Bouley's talk on the history of the Harrison House, and then Ginny and I are going to come back after the talk, and we're going to talk some more about the efforts to preserve the Harrison House. So stay with us. Okay, Ginny?
Great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Frank.
Okay, stay with us, everyone. Here's Jane Bouley's talk, town historian on the history of the Harrison House. Jane?
The Harrison House is at 124 Main Street in Branford. It is the home and museum of the Branford Historical Society since 1974. My name is Jane Bouley, and I'd like to tell you about the Harrison House, the people who lived in it, and how it relates to the town of Branford. The first settlers of Branford lived on today's Main Street and Montowi Street. This map is a depiction from 1710 of the various areas of Branford and including the center of Branford. Eventually, the sons and grandsons of the first settlers moved east, west, and north to North Branford. The section highlighted in red is called the Canoebrook District, and you can see on the lower right what was originally Montowi Street was called Town Street, and Pig Lane is a street that no longer exists. And the King's Highway ran from New York to Boston, roughly along what is today Branford's Main Street. The brooks that you see within the red rectangle was the Canoe Brook, and that has been largely covered over by development and North Main Street, which was built in the 1930s. The late John Sliney, our long-term first selectman, remembered as a child playing in the Canoe Brook. There was a house at the corner of today's Cherry Hill Road and West Main Street, or Main Street. The first Nathaniel Harrison, grandson of Richard, the first settler, lived at the corner of Main Street and Cherry Hill Road. Cherry Hill Road was then called Blatchley's Cartway. The house was built in 1660 on 4 acres by Daniel Swain. The house eventually became known as the Old Baldwin House, and by the time this picture was taken, it had been allowed to go to ruin. A 1901 newspaper stated, "The Old Baldwin House is no more. A gang of men and boys with ropes pulled it down." You can see on the right where the fence is Blatchley's Cartway or Cherry Hill Road, and behind the Swain house is Canoebrook School. At that time, it still had a second floor, which eventually burned. Nathaniel Harrison subdivided this property, and his eldest son, Nathaniel Jr., built the Harrison House in 1724. We, of course, do not know what Nathaniel looked like, but he was a farmer and held several positions of esteem in town. He was called Nathaniel Harrison Esquire, a title that was not placed lightly. He was a deputy to the General Assembly for 8 years, justice of the peace for 40 years, and captain of the local train band or militia. The Harrison House is a second-period Connecticut colonial called a 2-over-2. That is 2 rooms downstairs and 2 identical rooms upstairs. The date of 1724 is confirmed by research done by the late John Kirby, by extensive study of the architectural style of the house, and by its construction methods. These construction methods were studied by Arnold Peterson, a retired contractor, and he built a model in 1984 using all the same tools, making miniature copies of those, and the same construction methods that they would have used in 1724. The model took 300 hours to build, and the house has 240 studs. This is how the house would have originally looked with smaller windows than are there today. Glass was very expensive and had to be imported from England. Some of the original exterior of the house can still be seen in the attic and was discovered about 25 years ago behind another wall in the kitchen, and we leave it exposed today so people can come and see the original exterior from 1724. These are cedar clapboards. Only an expert craftsman would have been able to be in charge of building this house. The wood frame is mostly white oak and was probably cut on the property, all hand-hewn and marked with Roman numerals to keep track of their place within the frame. This was all done by manpower, some basic tools such as axes and adzes and saws, pulleys and oxen. This would not have been a barn raising. An entire side would have been much too heavy to pull into place at one time. The frame was built floor by floor, and the entire house is built around, tied into, and supported by the massive center chimney. Just think about the task to build the house, let alone the chimney, which when you come to the Harrison house, it is really huge and a sight to behold. As you enter the Harrison house, the entryway, properly called the porch, leads directly to the stairway and faces the bottom of the center chimney. The stair balusters are original, as is most of the wood throughout the house. The balusters and finials on the stairs are oak, and the stairway is much like that of the Highland House in Guilford. As you turn right from the porch, on the first floor is the hall. This is probably the most important room of the house. It would be today's living room, dining room, kitchen, and family room. The paneled walls in this room and throughout the house are made of tulip, a cousin of the magnolia tree. The most important feature of the hall was the large stone fireplace, which is 8 feet in width. Atop the fireplace is a beautiful lintel made of oak. It is at this fireplace that all the cooking, the heating of the house, candle and soap making was done, in addition to watching the children as these tasks were undertaken. In the hall, you can see the beautiful hand-hewn marks on the summer beam, and that it is notched into the other beams and the cross beams notched into it. The summer beam weighs several tons. All the framing, as is the summer beam, is white oak. There are corner posts and chimney posts, and each of these posts are carved and notched, and the girt, which is that side piece, notches into it, and it's held with wooden pegs. Each corner post weighs about 800 pounds. There were almost no nails used in the construction of the house, except in the exterior clapboards and in the flooring, because nails were imported from England and were very expensive. These corner posts, and also the chimney posts, carry the whole weight of the house. I think it is quite amazing how it has stayed standing for nearly 300 years. The craftsmen definitely knew what they were doing. The house is a testament to their knowledge. The room to the left on the first floor is called the parlor, a term that was still used during my grandmother's time. When we have school children tour the house, they have never heard of a parlor. This room was the fancy room. It was used for business, for having the minister over, or for Sunday dinners. The children were probably seldom allowed to be in the parlor. You'll note in the parlor there is also a summer beam, and much of the original wood is still in this room. A few of the rooms, such as the parlor, do have plaster, and this plaster is quite old. It is made of oyster shells and marsh hay. The main feature in the parlor is the corner cupboard. It is a particularly fine example of a Connecticut design with its fluted pilasters and carved rosettes. Our cupboard was copied for the one at the Chicago Art Museum. Inside the cupboard are examples of pink lusterware, fine china from the 1700s. Upstairs above the parlor is the parlor chamber, today called a bedroom. The entire family would sleep in one room, especially in the winter. Cozy indeed. Note again the summer beam and the wood surrounding it. The floorboards are original to the house, and the bottom of the floorboards would be the ceiling of the parlor below. The other bedroom upstairs is called the hall chamber, and today is our display room and museum. Nathaniel Harrison I died in 1760. Colonial Connecticut inheritance law was patterned after the English. That is, the eldest son received a double portion, and almost always the father's house. So Nathaniel III inherited the house from his father in 1760, but he lived only 10 more years, dying at the age of 35. The Harrison family lived in the house for 76 years. Nathaniel III had only one child, a daughter, Martha, who inherited the house at the age of 10 and would have had guardians until she reached the age of 18. At the age of 18, she married Nicodemus Baldwin and moved down the street to the Swain House at the corner of Main Street and Cherry Hill Road, and that is why that house became known as the Baldwin House. Martha sold the Harrison House in 1800 to Joseph and Lorraine Bradley Lindsley. Lorraine Bradley was born and grew up down the street at 12 Bradley Street, a house which still stands. By 1822, they had 9 children, 8 of whom lived to adulthood, and think about all of them sleeping in the winter in the parlor chamber. Architectural historians believe that the lean-to, or L, on the back of the house was probably added about 1800 when the Lindsley family acquired the house. Now you might remember that Martha Harrison Baldwin sold the house in 1800 to the Lindsley family, but her mother, Mary Tyler Harrison, the widow of Nathaniel III, was still alive. And by law, the widow of Nathaniel Harrison had the right to live in 1/3 of the house during her natural life, and if she did not remarry. The documents spell out very clearly where she could live in the house. She could live in the parlor, use the back door, have a small garden, and use part of the cellar. This is the fireplace in the parlor, and we discovered about 25 years ago that it was originally identical to the large 8-foot stone fireplace that was in the hall, and we believe that this change was made to a smaller fireplace to accommodate the widow Mary Harrison, this would be more manageable for her to tend to this fire. Also at this time, a bake oven was added, similar to a pizza oven today. Mary Tyler Harrison lived in the parlor for 22 more years with the Lindsley family and their 9 children, to whom she was not related. She died at the age of 87, and after her death, the Lindsley family was allowed to take over the parlor. Members of the Lindsley family lived in the Harrison house for 137 years. One of the Lindsley's 9 children was a daughter named Lorraine Lindsley, named for her mother. Lorraine married Thomas Smith. Lorraine was born in the Harrison house in 1815 and died here in 1915 at the age of 100. She was well known in town due to her advanced age. This photograph shows Lorraine and her son, Willard Smith. During the Smiths' care of the house was updated slightly and Victorianized. You'll notice the Victorian wallpaper and furnishings, but if you look closely around, the corner cupboard was left, as were the beams and the floor. Because there were really only 2 families that ever lived in this house, it was kept in remarkably original condition and did not even have indoor plumbing till 1930. After Lorraine's death in 1915, her son Willard and his wife Helen Sherry continued living in the house. He raised chickens in the backyard and sold eggs in a little wagon that he carted around town. People remembered them kindly. His wife Helen was very friendly and good to the neighborhood children, since Willard and she had none of their own. Helen Smith was the last of the family to live in the Harrison house and died in 1937. The Harrison house was purchased by J. Frederick Kelly, a nationally known architect and architectural historian with a practice in New Haven. He designed the New Haven Historical Society Museum, the Yale Medical School, and was the consulting architect for the restoration of the Whitfield House in Guilford. The Harrison house is included in his book, Early Domestic Architecture in Connecticut, an important book in the field. He restored the Harrison house to his interpretation of what the house originally looked like, and it is to this condition that the Branford Historical Society maintains the house. The Harrison House was left by Kelly when he died in 1950 to the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities, now called Historic New England. The Branford Historical Society has leased the house from them for 40 years. The house is many things. It is a museum and our meeting place. We keep this house as a house museum showing people what life was like in the early 1800s. It is filled with artifacts, many of which have Branford origins. An example is this great chair that belonged to George Baldwin, who was one of my ancestors and came to Branford in the 1660s from Milford. A colonial house museum needs the support of many volunteers. The Garden Club has maintained the gardens for most of the last 40 years. The house is of course important for its architecture and being able to show the public the craftsmanship of the 1700s. There simply are not many of these houses left. The house is an important building in the Branford Colonial Thematic House District and in the Canoebrick Historic District, which are both federally recognized historic districts. The house just doesn't stand alone. It is a part of the neighborhood of Canoebrook and its history, and it's an integral part of the streetscape when you drive down Main Street. So besides the importance of the Harrison House for its architecture, for me, the most important thing are the families who lived here, the Harrison, Lindsley, and Smiths, and it is their story that the Branford Historical Society would like to continue telling.
Great talk there from town historian Jane Bouley on the history of Branford's Harrison House. And we're back here in front of the Harrison House, right here, just outside the Branford Green area in the historic Canoe Brook part of town. And I'm back with Ginny Page, who's the Branford Historical Society president. That was such a great talk, wasn't it, Ginny?
Oh, it was wonderful. Jane does marvelous talks every time she's up there, and so informative. Good talk. Very good talk.
I've seen so many of them over the years, and as you said, they're so outstanding, every one of them.
Yeah, we had over 100 people at our annual dinner, and people were walking away with just loving that talk. Yeah, a good one.
It's really true. But anyway, so we are, at this time we're back in front of the Harrison House, and I just wanted to recap the efforts that are underway right now to acquire this house for the Historical Society, so it remains a museum.
Yeah.
So, what's going on with that?
Well, we're getting back into our fall campaign, and getting back into hitting the public, and a lot of community members have come out and donated, and we're so happy about that, to see the community get more involved and more interested. And we're always looking for members, and I invite everybody to become a part of this.
If people want to get in touch with you and with the Branford Historical Society, what's the best way to do that, Ginny?
Probably our website, www.branfordhistoricalsociety.org. There's a lot of information about the campaign, about events that we have, about history of the house, history of the town. I think you might enjoy it. Yeah.
Stop by and see it. As Ginny said, it is open.
It's open on Saturdays still through the end of October from 1 to 4.
Stop right in as you're passing by. It's that big red salt box. You can't miss it. I'm sure you've been driving by it for years. If you haven't come in now.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. Everybody's welcome here. It's a community museum, and we've got to keep it that way.
We do have to keep it that way. It's very important. As Ginny said about 20 minutes ago, this has been operated by the Historical Society in Branford for the last 40 years. They've been operating it with guides. Now, there's contents in there which is actually owned by the Branford Historical Society, right?
Oh yeah, we have had donations over the years that we care for and exhibit, and they're from old nautical to old the wars, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. There's industries. There's household items, furniture. It's spinning wheels. I could go on and on. There's a treasure trove of artifacts here, and the barn. Didn't even talk about the barn, but there's wonderful things to see here.
It's a true look back.
It's a treasure.
It really is. I agree with
Yeah.
you. And also, it's on a beautiful piece of property.
Oh, gorgeous. The backyard is, you wouldn't even think it was, it's an urban museum because it's in the center of town, but you go to the backyard and it's like you're walking into another land. It's beautiful back there. The garden club maintains our gardens. We have a colonial garden, an herb garden, and they do a marvelous job. We're so grateful for them to come every year and take care of our gardens.
It's true. And also, as Jane said, this is the Harrison House, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. Now, just before we wrap up this great program on the wonderful Branford, on the Harrison House and the efforts to save it, Ginny, would you tell us as to people and groups that have made contributions so far?
Well, like I said, the Branford Community Foundation has given us a matching grant over the period of our campaign of $35,000 for individuals. Every dollar that an individual donates gets matched by the Community Foundation. We've had a donation from the Branford Rotary Club recently for $10,000, which is just a very generous, very caring and thoughtful gift.
Yes.
And from community members, we get people that have lived here all their lives. We've been getting donations from outside of Branford, from all over the country that read it in the paper. We've been in the paper, we've been online, and Facebook. We're on Facebook, so people see us through the internet, through social media, and are touched by this.
At the time that we heard from Jane, the town historian, she told us how outstanding an architectural treasure this property is, inside and out. And this is why there's contributions coming in to Ginny and the Branford Historical Society, as she said, from all over the country. So let's complete the fund drive. Let's make the contributions and let's buy it.
Let's save this museum so it will be here for generations to come. Yeah,
Absolutely. We do need to do that, Ginny.
Yes.
I mean, over the years, we have lost, in Branford, all kinds of old buildings, right?
We have. Unfortunately, we've lost some beautiful old structures, and it stops here. We're not going to lose this.
Exactly.
We just can't let that happen.
That's right. Exactly right. Okay. Well, it's been great speaking with you today.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much for coming here and speaking with us about this.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, and it's important, like you say.
And I hope everybody enjoyed Jane's talk. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. Right, our town historian, Jane Bouley, that great talk that she presented on the history of the Harrison House, a great museum, almost 300 years old, on the National Register of Historic Places, up right now to be bought by the Branford Historical Society. They are closing in on their goal, but they aren't over the top yet. So please contribute. For further contact information, the address would be?
The website is www.branfordhistoricalsociety.org. If you have questions, you can email us through that, and we'll get back to you that way. It's an open website, and visit us there. Visit us on Facebook.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Ginny Page, president of the Branford Historical Society. We also heard that great speech, or great talk by Jane Bouley, Branford town historian. Thank you very much, Jane. Oh, we should give credit to the camera person who taped Jane.
That was Matt Kelsey.
Okay, thank you very much for taping
Good
Jane
job.
for us, Matt Kelsey. Okay, so thanks for being with us, Ginny.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's been great to be with you again. Stay with us. There's more programs coming up. And I'm Frank Twohill, Henry Pond behind the camera. Stay with us and keep tuned to BCTV Channel 18 for more programs around the town with Henry and Frank. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye, thank you.